Hello and welcome to News Swarm. I'm your host Chris with the CHRILLCAST, and as I've previously told you, I kind of promised an update in regards to my digging into the PS4 updates and bricking of consoles. Well, today I want you guys to like this video, comment down below, let me know what you think about it, and make sure you guys subscribe. I've got a couple more updates coming down the pipeline. I want to remind everybody that you can help me to come down or get down to the bottom of the bricked from updates by hopping into this poll here, voting and leaving a comment. This is the top post here. We are still looking for as many people to answer this poll as possible. Please help us get more answers. I would love to get to 1,000 votes on this. That would really make me feel better about the stats on this. But today I am it's going to be kind of a long one, so just bear with me as we go through it. To get started, I want to talk about the Sony update. So basically the way the Sony update tool works is it will check the health of all your hardware components in your PS4, and if anything comes back bad, most likely your update's going to fail or fail to install the update. And you could get a great deal, a big series of codes that could come up that could cause this. You know, it could be anything from the hard drive to your power supply to the disk reader. Generally speaking, replacing the hard drive or the power supply would fix any of those issues. And in that case, the hard drive is easy. You can swap that out relatively easily. The power supply is well understood. You could easily get that replaced as well, taking it to the Sony PlayStation support hotline. Where we run into issues where it's kind of confusing and really hard to understand is when it comes to the BD-ROM drive, the Blu-ray disc drive. In the console it's physically installed. So I'm specifically digging into one particular error, but before we get into that, I want to kind of explain one thing. So Blu-ray drives have always had an issue with being bricked all the way back to their inception. And basically the way it worked was when a Blu-ray drive shipped, it would have a chip on it that would specifically protect via DRM. That was a request from the industry that produces movies, you know, Hollywood and all the different film studios. And essentially what they wanted was to prevent unauthorized copies of a disc from playing. So there'd be a revocation list of specific keys and codes on specific discs that would prevent them from being played on the Blu-ray disc drive and essentially bricking the drive. This is kind of the basis for DRM in a Blu-ray disc drive, and it's changed over the time, but a lot of it works similarly in other things like Blu-ray disc players and PS4s, PS3s, and probably even the PS5. But essentially the firmware needs to be flashed to essentially prevent improper discs or self-burn discs from running in an official hardware capacity on the console. And basically in this case it's looking for unauthorized copies and preventing them from playing, but in the case of the PS4 it's looking for something else. So we'll talk to that in a minute. But if you happen to have the SU-42118-6 error code, I want to point out there is a change.org petition that was created on, let me see if I can find the date this was created. 2 months ago. So this is only 2 months ago. I'll read through it real quick, give you guys a little summary of it. Hello, I have never modded my PS4 Slim. I've always taken care of it, never dropped it, no water damage, etc. Now it won't update at all to the 7.00 update. Every time I try to update it, I get this error, SU-42118-6. I've been getting this error since the update 6.71. My PlayStation is currently on the update of 6.51, and I haven't managed to update it since the 6.51 update. Every time it throws the SU-42118-6 code. It has been throwing that code since May, and it's almost November. I've tried everything under the sun to get it to update, but no avail. When I went to escalate the issue to PlayStation support, they said they'd give me a ring within 24 hours. They did not. I had to call them again. To me, that means they do not care to follow up or about their consumer or customers. I actually called PlayStation support, spoke to a man. He said that this code was not an issue. He was really rude, which is unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. And would not let them explain. He wanted them to pay 125 in whatever currency that is for a refurbished console. They told them that the PlayStation support team does not actually fix the consoles, which is pretty common across the tech industry. They actually just essentially give you a refurbished or repair console for a nominal price, in this case the 125 of whatever currency that is. And so therefore they don't actually dig into these codes, the SU-42118-6 code. In order to get the console back to the consumer fast, they actually just copy over the data from a bricked console as best they can and strip the old one for parts for future repairs, and then send it back. So this is an update that is forced upon you by Sony. And the reason why they say forced upon you is because if you don't accept every single update from the PS4, then you'll get disconnected from PlayStation Network. Your PlayStation 4 will no longer allow you to play your digital games after a certain point, from what I understand. Thankfully, the CMOS battery bomb issue has been taken care of in the 9.00 update. But if you can't get to the 9.00 update, then eventually both your disc-based games and your digital PSN games will eventually fail. So if you can't get to the 9.00 update, which is a huge big deal, the CMOS battery issue has been resolved, then your console will eventually brick when that CMOS battery fails, no matter what. Like, that is the end state for your PlayStation 4. So all they did was shut the person down. So they did a lot of digging through the months and found out that they're not the only person with this problem. They link a whole bunch of previous forums and posts by other people. This is clearly not exclusive to the UK. It's all over the world, and it's not exclusive to the PS4 Slims. I've seen it hit every single model based on my comment section about the PS4. So if you are interested, I will leave a link to this petition in the video I'm placing today, because I tend to agree that the Sony PlayStation 4 being forced to have an update that will potentially brick your console should not be accepted by Sony, in the case that you have to actually pay for a replacement console. If Sony wants you to pay for a replacement console, the update should be optional, and they should not break your ability to use the console. So I know it puts them in a kind of between a rock and a hard place with the ever-changing encryption technology and updates. But if they're going to force updates, they should be required to also fix the consoles they break with these updates. You know, they can't go by having zero liability for this. So if you want to sign this petition, go ahead. I will leave a link in the description below. All right, so this brings me to the next post. That's not it, this one. The PS4 Slim error, this is 8 months ago, SU-42118-6 disk drive. PS4 Slim is having this error, same error we talked about before, and they cannot fix it. Let's see here. You most likely have a blown fuse on the motherboard, right? So this is where I kind of started with my research into this. So then I was like, okay, so what is the SU-42118-6 issue? What exactly does that mean? Let's see if I can find my error codes. Okay, so you can go to the error codes here, the PS Dev Wiki. Let's see, it's not. Oh, okay, because I just need to scroll over. This has a common list of all the PS4 and I think previous consoles as well, but specifically the PS4 error codes are on here. So you can find the error code SU-42118-6. And we can read this directly off of here. It says the BD-ROM drive error / cannot communicate with BD-ROM. Check BD-ROM ribbon between the motherboard and the drive. If the tabs are broken, replace the cable and test. Also check connectors for breaks or corrosion. If no better, check and replace drive board fuses where bad. And then it says which fuses you can check on different various consoles. But then it also mentions may require Renesas IC swap to donor daughter board if all fails. This is kind of where a lot of my research stems from, is this mention of the Renesas IC swap. All right, so then we go back, and if you try to find Renesas replacement things, Renesas is the company that makes this chip that Sony's using. You can actually find this amazing YouTube channel called Andrew Paul, where he goes through a lot of these different repairs you can do to your PS4, shows you how to check voltage checks and all kinds of other stuff. But the main issues I found that cause this SU-42118-6 issue is sometimes during the update a bad software mismatch occurs, and basically in order to fix that, you would just need to go back to the PlayStation support website and fix it using their step-by-step guides. This seems to be uncommon when you get the SU-42118-6 issue, and it's possible it'll pop up again in the future, but rebuilding the database or updating over USB in safe mode can potentially fix it if it is specifically a software issue. The second thing, which is actually mentioned in the error code, is the flex cables. They are prone to failure because Sony uses thin plastic on the connectors, which can break over time. They use very thin cables, which is common for small circuits like this. And then replacing or reinstalling that flex cable can resolve the issue if that's the case. It'll fix the communications between the console and the BD-ROM drive. And if you're comfortable opening up your console, it's actually a relatively easy fix if that is the issue. And hopefully that is the issue, because that's one of the easiest things you can fix other than software. It's just basically unplugging the cable and plugging it back in, or buying a new cable online and plugging that one in. It's a relatively simple fix if that's the issue. The next option is your BD-ROM, your Blu-ray disc ROM drive has a physical failure or obstruction. Over time and use, any disk drive can suffer from a physical obstruction, whether something internal or foreign has caused a hang-up in the drive. And doing some kind of a thorough teardown and cleaning can sometimes resolve this issue. If you don't have any previous experience taking apart computer components and electronics, I would recommend taking it to a repair shop to check the Blu-ray ROM drive, disk drive, and just see if they can clean it out for you or find any mechanical hang-ups on the drive itself, because they may be able to fix that for you without breaking anything. Now the next thing, and this is why you need to go to Andrew Paul's YouTube channel here. It's got 33.8 subscribers, 33.8K subscribers. He really should have probably a couple 100,000 for the amount of technical information he has to provide to the community. But he has done walkthroughs actually checking the fuses on just about every model of the PS4 I can find. And if you follow along with his checks, you can actually check every single voltage at every single fuse, or every single spot on the board essentially. And you can also check each fuse for continuity, and he points out where every fuse is on each different board. So there are common fuses to check, and they actually listed in the error code. Most commonly, you'll see the F6201 or F6202 failed, and you can replace those. You can buy them online. I've seen some links. I don't know which ones are best for it. I'm not going to send you a link to a tiny fuse that somebody smarter than me can find more easily. But generally speaking, repair shops will have a donor board that has all these fuses in good working order, and they'll swap your bad fuse with a good fuse from the donor board that they are using for repairs. So generally speaking, that's how that works. But if you can find the fuse online and replace it yourself, you're more than welcome to. I just say your mileage may vary, because these are very, very small fuses. I'll try and get a good up close look at it for you. Let me see if I can find a good one. You should be able to find it on here somewhere. Here we go. If you go to here, you can see and find, he's looking at all the fuses on here, but they're really, really small. You can see one right there up at the top right corner there. That's a fuse. They're really small. And you just check continuity across it. You have to have a really small multimeter to do so. That's not what he's doing here. He's actually checking other things. But if you look at the top right, above the gold circle, the one with the hole in the middle of it, that's a test point. There's a fuse to the upper left of that thing. You can't see my mouse, but you should be able to figure out what I'm talking about. Anyways, checking those fuses can tell you right away if you've got a continuity issue or fuse is blown on the board, and those can be replaced. And then finally, we get down to the culprit of a lot of these SU-42118-6 issues, which cannot be fixed, at least not easily and without hacking your console or having some very high level understanding of how this all works in Sony's actual architecture and design, because this is kind of complicated stuff. Basically, there is a chip called the Renaissance chip. It's based on RL78 architecture. You can look that one up. There's a whole bunch of documentation on that, but Sony uses a custom version of the RL78 Renaissance chip that marries up your specific PS4 with a BD-ROM drive that is specific to your PS4. If this chip fails or a mismatch occurs in the identification of the drive or the motherboard to the Renaissance chip, then you will be unable to clear the SU-42118-6 error code on your own, at least without seriously intimate knowledge on how this all works, which is what I've already stated. Basically, due to the way the PS4 DRM works with the BD-ROM drive and the RNSS chip, both of these components will get firmware updates regularly to prevent tampering and jailbreaking of that Blu-ray disc drive. And that is specific so that you cannot run non-approved media in the Blu-ray disc drive. So if a firmware update breaks that RNSS chip, or if it just fails over time due to heating or various other issues, then the PS4 can no longer validate that the correct Blu-ray disc drive is installed. And due to that being one of the PS4 security checks, it will no longer allow you to update the console. It'll essentially assume you've modified it. You cannot replace this chip yourself, as this is hard-coded. It is a hard-coded chip to the motherboard, and will only recognize that one specific chip and that one specific Blu-ray drive to prevent you from modifying your PS4 hardware and potentially run backup discs and homebrew on the console with a third-party drive. If the Sony PS4 updates have the ability to update that RNSS chip and potentially cause its failure, this is a serious problem with the PS4 as a whole, and I believe Sony should be giving replacements for free when that SU-42118-6 issue occurs directly after an update and causes some kind of a mismatch with the RNSS chip, whether it breaks it with a faulty firmware update, or something in the code itself has broken the connection between the RNSS and the Blu-ray disc drive. I mean, there is no way for a consumer to know this is going to happen before the update, nor is there any way to predict it. And Sony forces these updates on the console. So either Sony should allow us to replace the Blu-ray disc drives and the chip itself, while also allowing us to update the keys on the motherboard somehow to allow us to do this at a third-party repair shop or on our own, or else Sony should be replacing these consoles that experience this issue due to the forced updates for free. That is my personal opinion. So I agree with everything said in this change.org petition. If you are experiencing this issue, we really should be pushing Sony to replace those particular PS4s for free, because there's no excuse for that. Like, there's no way to know before you update that your Blu-ray disc drive is no longer going to work, or that you're going to have an issue like that preventing you from being able to access your own digital library that you purchased from Sony. If Sony wants you to stay in their ecosystem, I would expect them to take care of the customers. And I don't know what else to say about this other than do better, Sony. Like, this is just unacceptable. There shouldn't be a point where you have to worry that your PS4 is no longer going to accept updates and have an issue. If you wanted to know how I found out about the RL78 chip, these guys at the failoverflow.com blog actually discussed this. There's a rebranded Renaissance RL78/G13, specifically the R5F100PL chip on the PS4. So that's that. But yeah, basically that's what we got. And then the reason why we know that this is causing the issue is because when you look at this thread here, this person right here, hello all, just an update for anyone who followed this thread. I finally managed to fix their PS4 Slim by swapping a new Renaissance chip. Console will now do the update, and he can use it as a digital only console, because with that mismatch between the Renaissance, the motherboard, and the disc drive, it can't verify any of your discs, and therefore you can only play digital games. Now, that would be okay, because it would be a pseudo fix, not a full-on fix, because you can't do discs. But after that, it won't let him do any more updates after that particular swap. So basically, what he found out the hard way was, if that Renaissance chip fails and you need to replace it, there's no way to verify the Blu-ray disc drive on your console is legit, and the PS4 will prevent you from being able to update in the future, because Sony's tool to update will not allow you to do so, because it'll sense a failure of the hardware. So based on all this, we can also discuss one other code, and that is the CE35888-2 error. So I'm just going to tell you guys what that code actually means here in just a minute. CE-35888-2. All right, here you go. CE35888-2 cannot start the application / wrong daughter board in drive. All right, so this is an easily explainable error. It shouldn't have happened, but it does. Basically, you would only get this code if the Blu-ray disc drive in the PS4 was replaced incorrectly, but it is also possible, I guess, kind of should be a pretty rare issue, but I guess it would be possible that an update would cause a mismatch between the drive and the daughter board in the console if a bad firmware update was pushed to the disk drive. So in the event that your drive was replaced and this error code comes in, your drive was replaced incorrectly. Because basically, as we explained before, there's that Renaissance chip. In this case, there's a daughter board that is physically assigned to your console, and it communicates with the motherboard. If your Blu-ray disc drive was replaced wholesale without doing the correct process, then it would have the wrong daughter board and introduce a mismatch between the PS4 and the Blu-ray disc drive based on that daughter board being wrong. So if you need your Blu-ray disc drive replaced on your PS4, then they need to open up the Blu-ray disc drive on the PS4, provided that you have one of the models with a daughter board, and they would replace the daughter board in the Blu-ray disc drive from the bad BD-ROM drive, this Blu-ray disc drive in the console currently, match it up to a new Blu-ray disc drive, and swap in the old motherboard or the old daughter board in your console to the new Blu-ray disc drive being installed in your console. So basically, you need to Frankenstein it. You take two disc drives, right? You got the one in the console currently and the one that you're replacing, and you take just the one part, the daughter board, in the one that's currently installed, and put that into the new one before you install it into the console, therefore having a matching daughter board on the new disk drive for your console. So if you're getting this error, I highly recommend you check and see if the Blu-ray disc drive has been replaced, and if it has, contact your repair shop to make sure that they didn't mess this replacement up. So yeah, long story short, it's kind of messed up. I highly recommend, if you are having this SU-42118-6 error and you can't resolve it yourself, check out this petition, and if you agree with what this person has to say, go ahead and sign it. I'm just thankful I'm not in this boat, but I feel for everybody that is, and I hope that you guys can get some resolution to this that doesn't involve you paying for the mistakes that Sony made in designing this console the way that they did and updating it in the way that they have. So comment down below if you guys have any further information that I don't have. I would love to hear what you have to say. And at the same time, this video did take me a long time to put out, so I apologize that it wasn't put out in an expedient manner, but I wanted to make sure I had as much information as possible to give to you guys, because you guys deserve it. I appreciate your support following these videos, and if you like the way I'm covering this, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. Tonight we actually have a very special live podcast that runs between 1 and 2 hours. We're going to be talking about what it's like being a gamer and a dad with some really cool guests. I hope I'll see you all there. I'll have a link to that live stream at the end of this video, and also a link to a previous PS4 video we did recently about the CMOS battery bomb and how that got resolved. So as always, I'm Chris from the CHRILLCAST. This has been the latest news swarm update video on the PS4 9.00 update, and we will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.